And welcome to another very special episode of The Breakdown, X's and O's. And we're not talking hugs and kisses, ladies and gentlemen, because today I am joined with, I always point the wrong direction because it's inverted camera. I'm joined with the 5-year NFL vet, the man, the myth, the legend, who I like to call Nate Nessie, but you can call him Nate Ness. He's been in the league before. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to ask him some hard-hitting questions today. And yes, you wouldn't have thunk it. The highest-paid player in NFL history came from the
Mississippi State
University. So we're going to talk about Dak's contract, how he performed week 1. We're going to talk about a couple week 1 performances. We're going to go NFL, college, NFL, and then end it off with that sweet, sweet, sweet scripture that we always do. So without further ado, Nate, what's up?
What's up, baby? What's going on? Hello, everybody. Hello. The house is quiet right now.
It's saying I can hear it.
It is really quiet right now. It not gonna be quiet too much longer. Nemo's over there, and Demi's on her way home. Today is a beautiful day. Every day above ground is a beautiful day. Just blessed and thankful to be alive, and just I'm excited. Football's back, collegiately and professionally. So much to talk about, so much to really digest, and so many different talking points. So I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited to get into what we got to get into, and then But if I can, I got to say hello to my family, my children, Tyler, Nemo, Demi, Mika. I love you. My family, I love you guys, and let's get right into it. See, Davey.
Nate, do you hear that? It's so quiet. I can hear crickets in your household.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is that, and I be feeling bad, because when they're both here, and I know they're kids, but they just love to be all up and on me.
I mean, you the dad. And especially with boys, I know they love their dads, because I did a lot growing up. I did everything with mine. So he gonna naturally cling on to you. But let me see if I got a little something here.
What we got?
Good chow.
Oh yeah, we getting into it. We're gonna hop right into it.
Oh, we hopping right into it, Nate, because there's a lot to talk about. Oh, not Nate Ness welcome guest. What the heck? Nate's necessary notes. What am I doing here? We're kind of keeping it low key. I'm trying to not have my excitement. I know it's really hard to hear and tell, but I'm actually very excited for this episode. And I will be getting louder as the show goes on, especially when we get a little messy tonight. But at the conclusion of the show, I will always settle it down. So, week 1 of the 2024 NFL regular season is now officially in the books. We saw the Chiefs and Ravens open it up big time. Really good game. Was about to send them to overtime, except Isaiah Likely had black cleats. That was the sole reason that game did not go into overtime. If he had white cleats, they wouldn't have been able to tell he stepped out of bounds. His little toe was out of bounds with that black cleat. Chiefs win 27-20. Yes, that's what it was, because now I pull up the ticker with all the scores down there. We follow that game up with the Packers-Eagles game in Brazil, which is interesting because Brazil does not like the color green because of gang affiliation. So when you have two green teams come to Brazil and play, which is why you had one team white and one team black, You didn't see either team play full green,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's
because of the
interesting.
gang affiliation. Yes. So, and my buddy told me this. I talked to a lot of people about football, and my buddy told me that, so I had to share that. And Noah, if you're watching it, shout outs to you for telling me that fact. But we have people who have not been in the starting position play phenomenal week one. And I want to point out one specifically, and Nate, you can give me your talk on this. We had Sam Darnold come in for the Vikings, and we talked about the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy getting injured. If you don't remember that show, we said, hey, the Viking season may be over. They invested their number one. They invested their first-round draft pick into a rookie quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, who they wanted to be their franchise guy going into the season, and he ended up tearing his ACL. He had a knee injury in the preseason. Now Sam Darnold stepping up. He was a top 3 pick in the 2018 draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. He was a top 3 quarterback, went to the Jets, probably number 2. I think it was number 2. Hey, Demi. And we saw him ball out, Nate. I mean, the Vikings won 28-6. He went 19 for 24, had 208 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he did throw a pick, which is like what we've seen from Sam Darnold. But takeaways, Nate. Takeaway from the Vikings. What do you see? Obviously, they did something good that the Giants didn't. What do you think the Vikings did well in this game, and what do you think the Giants need to do to improve? Because obviously Daniel Jones is a question in New York.
Daniel, you know what? But the thing about it is the Giants, in order for them to be a good team, it's like starting from scratch. You have to really put that offensive line out there, put the position players out there and whatnot. I mean, you lost Saquon Barkley. Let me tell you the players that the Giants have gotten traded and got rid of in the last 6 years. They've gotten rid of Saquon. They've let Odell. If I'm not mistaken, Kadarius Toney was there. They don't have no solid defense. I mean, their offensive line is shaky. Their quarterback play is shaky. But then again, can we blame the quarterback because he's back there running for his life every time? You want to see the Giants get back to a place of prominence. What we've seen from the New York Football Giants, but oh man. And then on top of that, playing in that New York media, or excuse me, that New York fan base. If you do bad one game, they don't like you. You're getting booed. It's tough playing in a huge market such as New York. It's tough, and it's crazy that Eli was able to sustain as long as he sustained. But with the Vikings, I think the Vikings with Sam Darnold, they could actually do some things. He's a veteran quarterback. He's a first-round veteran quarterback, and he's getting the opportunity to, again, change the narrative that has been said about him, change the narrative in itself. I guess you could say rectify his career, or can we say, again, a second chance at being a starter, and again, showing that he was a number 4 or 5 overall pick in his draft, and just let the world know that his draft position and his pick was no mistake. That he has an absurd amount of talent. He can play the game. He just is not in the right system.
I mean, we can look at somebody like Geno and say, okay, well,
yeah, prime example. And another person we can look at. They were ready to write off Joe Flacco. They're ready to write off Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco comes in off the couch, and if I'm not mistaken, he leads the Browns to the playoffs.
Oh, he most definitely does. We saw that they did not get past the Texans.
Yeah,
first round. I mean, that Texas team was difficult to get past, but Sam Darnold, and as we said, the Viking season may be over. The Bears might be worse than the Vikings this season.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Did you see that game? That was the battle of the number 1 overall draft pick in the 2025 NFL draft.
But that, like I said to Bruce, the Bears, the Steelers, the Giants, who else can I say? The Bucks. These are teams that are known for having good defenses. Their defenses have been better than their respective offenses. So the Bears, that defense put on a clinic on Sunday. Now we can talk about the offense and the offense really being stifled and the offense not producing and not being able to really get a groove and so forth. And that's your number 1 overall draft pick in Caleb Williams. I don't even know what Caleb Williams was, but the reality of it is they won the game. At the end of the day, when that clock reads 0, 0, 0, 0, the only thing that matters is if your team won or lost. That's the only thing that matters. And they won. And that defense, we have to give that defense, that special teams credit. Eberflus, he schematically schemed a good game plan against the Tennessee Titans. I will have to I want to criticize Will Levis on that bonehead pick 6 because, again, in situations of such, you have to think and use better judgment. Take the sack and not take the turnover. Put your team in a position where it can win. Give your defense an opportunity. But again, that Chicago Bears defense is something special. Caleb Williams is in a solid position. If we think about it, he's in a solid position. It's just, again, he's not going to be forced to be Superman. Just take what the defense, what the opposing team's defense gives you. Don't put your team in bad positions and whatnot. You have a defense that's going to play lights out, and it's going to be hard to score on. They have a lot of talent. So, yeah.
Okay, but we look at the score, and we say 24-17, okay? That is a 1-possession game, sure, and it takes 3 possessions to acquire 24 points, okay? Well, they scored 3 touchdowns and a field goal is what the Bears did to get to that point marking. Let me ask you something. I don't know if you know this. Do you want to know how many of those 24 points, and you said this defense is good, and this defense played great. It played probably better than, if not, maybe the best defense in the league as of week 1.
It was
24 points, Nate. How many of that were offensive points?
It was none of them. None.
They 24 points by your defense and special teams.
You had 10 points from special teams, 14 points from your defense.
Caleb Williams was looking like he did in the preseason. Bad. He threw under 50% in the preseason. He did it again week 1. And that Bears offense, I have said it 100 times. It's not that I don't like Caleb Williams. I don't like Caleb Williams on the Bears. And I'm going to talk about this Thursday with the guys. That offense looked horrendous. It was awful. It did not look like they had spent in. They had a Hard Knocks. I think the Hard Knocks went to their head a little bit because what they were showing on Hard Knocks was not what was on the field.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, oh my gosh, those throws that they were showing Caleb Williams make. I didn't see him make a throw like that the whole game. I'm just speechless. I'm just speechless on how bad that offense was, on that offense performance.
We got to throw this out there. We got to throw this out there. Were we expecting Caleb Williams to come in there and just be the savior? Were we expecting? And excuse me, right now as I'm moving around my iPad, and as you can see, Nemo's right here. He's happy. He's really, really happy. Did you expect for Caleb Williams to just come in and just be the savior? That team is going to just turn around and just be a playoff team? No, it takes this. This is week 1. This is week 1, and we gotta, again, it's a 17-game season, and we have to, again, each week is going to be a learning week for him. He's a rookie. This team is a relatively young team. They're going to be learning week in and week out, so we got to be patient. We cannot just, again, throw the book at him and call him a bust. We have to give him opportunities to develop. We got to give him the tools necessary and, The Bears have to give him the tools and everything necessary needed for him to develop into a franchise quarterback. So
No, I get it.
can't we
I get
can't
it.
we can't we can't come quick to judgment already.
You're right. You're right. And although I can sit here and kind of whine and cry about these offsetting performances and that did not meet my expectations, I want to talk about tears of joy that rolled down my face this Sunday after watching the New Orleans Saints performance against the Carolina Panthers. It looked like the offense, the defense, the special teams looked like a well-oiled machine. It looked like something that I was missing way back when Drew Brees was the starting quarterback. And I'm not comparing Derek Carr to Drew Brees, but Derek Carr threw a very good game. He went 19 for 23, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is the first time the Saints offense has ever scored the first 3 offensive drives in a row under Dennis Allen. That is an accomplishment. You bring in someone like Clint Kubiak, who I was hyping up before on the breakdown, saying, hey, this is the guy who has credit for a lot of Brock Purdy's success in San Fran. He was the passing games coordinator. He called a lot of the shots when it came to passing. Well, now you bring him as the OC in New Orleans. How good can he? What can he do with Derek Carr? Like, obviously, people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Derek Carr was pulling tricks out the bag I haven't seen before in New Orleans. It was so amazing. I had the chance to go out with my buddies and watch some Mississippi State volleyball, and I stayed in my dorm and watched the entirety of this New Orleans game, and it made me so happy. It made the rest of my day. Now, Sundays are already good enough because I get to go to church and whatnot. But when the Saints drops 47 points on the freaking Panthers, it was so beautiful. It was a happy marriage, and all I could do was sit there in awe and watch the beatdown happen. What are they doing in New Orleans this year they didn't do last year, Nate?
I don't think Derek Carr was healthy. I don't think he was healthy. I mean, this is the first game of the year, and we're playing against the Carolina Panthers, who really had a rough year. So, I mean, our expectation and reality. I'm gonna tell you the difference between the two and how they correlate. Expectation is what we see and what we think, and what we assume. The reality of it is that the final product and what you see. Our expectation is when you see the Saints going against the Carolina Panthers with a new coach, a second-year quarterback. This team is still in a rebuild stage. You expect the New Orleans Saints to dominate them and beat them. The reality of it is that they did exactly what the expectation was. Now, again, the Panthers are still an NFL franchise, yet we cannot take out of context the fact that Derek Carr, he's a 10-plus year vet in the NFL, and he was expected to perform the way he performed. They pay him big money for him to go out there and perform. So that's that. As you can see, the kids are around you.
No, and I agree. I wasn't too. Derek Carr's first half of the year was about the same as Andy Dalton. And Saints fans were so quick to say, and including me, obviously I wasn't putting them on the same level as Andy Dalton, but Saints fans were so quick to say, oh, this is another Andy Dalton year. Well, the second half of the season hit, and Derek Carr, although not 100% healthy, looked a lot better than he did. He made a tremendous upgrade to his season and the second half of that season. I mean, a lot of people were saying he looked MVP level the second half of that season. And statistically, maybe so. And when I look at him now, can he carry the second half of that season into this season? And if he can play the full season he played the second half of last year, I think we can do a lot with Derek Carr doing the helm, because on the St. Brown Brothers podcast, they brought Cam Jordan on, and they're like, okay, well, the Super Bowl's in New Orleans this year. Do you see the New Orleans Saints having a possibility in playing in the Superdome come February? And he said, if you see us in the playoffs, expect us to be in the Super Bowl. And of course, somebody that's been there a long time, knows the culture, everything. You got to kind of take what he says to heart.
But you got to
Because
expect that too. You got to expect that as a competitor. As a competitor, you want to go in there every season with the mindset that you're going to win the Super Bowl. That you're going to win your division. You're going to go to the playoffs. You're going to win the Super Bowl. That's why we play the game. We play the game for the championships. You know what I'm saying? Because again, that's one of the things. You know what? Money can be taken away. Money can be lost. Um, whatnot. You can spend it. You can squander it. You can make a lot of it, and so forth. And money comes and goes. But one thing that can never be taken away from a player is being a champion. The title of being a champion. And there's so many players, so many great players. I'm talking about some of the greatest to ever lace them up have gone their whole career without competing for a championship or winning a championship. That's the beautiful thing about it.
I don't expect the Saints to make the Super Bowl. Obviously, if they did, I might drop a couple grand to try and go watch them play at the Super Bowl. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, Nate, to have your team play home field advantage in the Super Bowl. It is only ever happened one time ever. When's the other time it happened? Twice.
Tampa Bay and LA.
Oh, did LA play in SoFi?
They played in SoFi when they won the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well, excuse me, I didn't know that. But thanks, Nate. I had a feeling that might have been the case. But regardless, it'd be once in a lifetime. But we have now seen something happen once in a lifetime. Let's talk Dak, Nate, before we end this segment. He has now signed, it's on the ticker at the bottom. They have agreed, him and the Cowboys, to a 4-year, $240 million contract extension with a record-setting $231 million guaranteed. Now, we know Dak's injury history. Is it going to happen again? He's broken his ankle before, had to be out for the season, but he looked dang good last year. Now, the Cowboys were able to beat the Browns 33-17. Dak only threw 19 for 32, 179 yards and a touchdown. It's not the highest paid QB in history numbers, but like you said, it's only week one. We're going to see what happens. So, Nate, what can you expect now from the Mississippi State alum being the highest paid quarterback in history? Was it a good move to keep Dak in Dallas? I know you don't like the Cowboys, but give me your expert opinion.
All right, expert opinion and being completely unbiased. The best move that Jerry could have made was keep Dak there. What quarterback are you going to get to come there and actually produce as Dak has produced? Dak has done, you know what? Because Cowboys are quote unquote America's team, and they're the team that again has the magnifying glass. You have a Hall of Fame owner who's out there doing all the interviews and speaking and doing the radio shows and the TV TV pressers and so forth. And again, this team, you look at the tradition of the Cowboys. What the Cowboys have produced as far as players that have walked through those doors. It's just always expected the Cowboys compete. Dak has done a tremendous and phenomenal job since his rookie year, and there is I think at times he gets the wrong end of the stick. When it comes to placing the blame and shouldering the blame on him, when the game of football, the game of basketball, the game of baseball, competitive sports, it's a team aspect, it's a team sport, and again, you cannot take out you got to take into consideration that again, one player does not make or break a game. It's a collective, it's a team effort. So seeing that he's been rewarded with a contract that he deserves, and ultimately we've seen last year that Dak had tremendous, phenomenal career numbers. He deserves that he deserves that raise. I mean, again, but the pressure is going to be on him. We look at all the quarterbacks that have gotten new contracts. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, There's so many different quarterbacks, and I know I'm missing some right now. But Trevor Lawrence, a lot of these quarterbacks that have gotten these big contracts, the pressure is going to be on them to again succeed. Why are we paying you if you can't succeed? And the target is the target. The real target is on the back of the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is still the cream of the crop. Patrick Mahomes is still quarterback 1A. And a lot of these quarterbacks that have gotten these contracts, you want to be 1A. And that's the thing. With Dak's new deal, it's going to be expected that he leads this team to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, 240, 60 million annually, you're going to be expected to expected to compete for a Super Bowl. Going to the playoffs is not good enough anymore. It's not. That's mediocrity. And that's listening to the words listening to an interview with Patrick Mahomes, where again he stated that making the playoffs is it's not enough for him anymore. That's the mindset of a Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., where again making it to the playoffs, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for me. There has to be some substance with making to the playoffs. And when I say substance, there needs to be some hardware that's accomplished. You need to be playing in the second week of February the next year. So, yeah, that's what it's about now.
And I'm glad we talked Dak. I wish we could have it a little bit longer. But with what we have planned today, we can talk about his college days. Now, I'm not actually wanting to talk about Dak back in college. We know how well he played then. I want to talk about some Mississippi State football because obviously, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I want to swim with the Loch Ness Snake.
Let's
go. I hope you brought your little pool floaties.
I'm ready to swim.
So let me pull this ticker up. And obviously, for me to give you the scores for every single college football game would be terrible for me to type out. I don't even know if I'd had enough characters. But here is the SEC football week 2 scores. And as you can see, that first one is it hit me hard because it's 9:30 and I'm turning on the state game and it says your event will start soon. And I'm like, it's 9:30. Where is the game? Why is it not on yet? It's 9:30. I want to watch the game. And come to know, they don't play the game until after the Alabama game, even though I'm on the event on ESPN on my little Roku remote. And I missed almost the entire kickoff and half of the first quarter. And I might have been glad I did because Mississippi State looked awful on defense. Let me give you some stats, Nate, and tell me what kind of defense you think State might have been running for Arizona State. Now, the game ended 30-23, but that is not indicative of the beatdown we received on defense. The running back, I don't remember his name, but with the combination of missed tackles, the defensive scheme, and I want you to try to guess what defensive scheme, based on what I'm about to tell you, was what we run with our defensive coordinator. He had 262 yards rushing, Nate. 262. How can you win a ball game like that? We had over 25 missed tackles. Our linebacker that came from South Carolina who transferred looked like Balzong. I mean, we were running a defense that wasn't supposed to stop the run. What defense do you think that could have been, Nate?
I don't know. What was y'all doing?
We were running a 3-3-5 trying to stop the run. We don't have the linebackers for that.
Nah, you can't run a 3-3-5. You gotta run a 4-3. I mean, you can run a 3-4, but you gotta have a cold defensive line.
And if you can imagine what a 3-3-5 looks like, I wish I had a picture I could pull it up real quick.
I know, because when Rich Rod was at Arizona, that's what Arizona ran, was a 3-3-5.
Here, I'll pull this up right here. Wikipedia's got me covered. Let's see if I can get it up. I wish I had it before, but the dang fire drill messed me up. I didn't even get to prepare for all I wanted to. But look, when you have 3 down linemen on the field, is this popping up? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. When you have 3 down linemen on the field, that DE, DT, DE, you only got 3 people on the line. We were getting beat from the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. The end of that halftime score was like 30-10 or 30-3 or something. We ran this defense the entire first half, and they kept running on us like it was freaking Biden's immigration plan. Like they were running through us like the freaking walls were open, the gates of heaven was open, and everybody just filled in. We got three linebackers behind the defensive line, and none of them are fast enough or none of them can wrap up enough to make a tackle. This dude was breaking tackles like it was candy. It was easy. He transferred from an FCS school, Sacramento State, came to Arizona State. I can't pronounce his name right, but it's something weird. And we're running this 3-3-5 with 5 in the secondary, trying to prepare for a pass when they're just running it on us every single time. And then guess what? In the second half, guess what we ran? Nickel. And we stopped them very well. They scored a field goal the entire second half because we played nickel. We played 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers. And we were able to stop the run because we weren't running something insane like a 3-3-5.
Mm-hmm. Look, 3-3-5 is you know what it and most defensive schemes and whatnot. You see teams where run a 4-3 or 3-4. Mainly they run a 4-3. Play gap defense, gap sound defense, and whatnot. But 3-3-5, you can't. No more. Because that cornerback, that third cornerback is more of he's a spur. It's a hybrid position between a linebacker and a safety. So, but it's not designed to stop the run. It's really not.
I didn't know I was muted. Oh, well, let me restart what I was saying. Let me pull this back up because obviously this is what I'm seeing the entire first half. And I don't want to say it's rocket science to call a defense because it is rocket science to call defense. You got to know what you're doing. But to know what is not working on defense is not rocket science, Nate. Me and you could sit at home, and although you played NFL football, which you got a lot more credibility, so I'm not gonna.
If they getting it, if they're gashing you, you should know. Okay, I got to change something up.
No, exactly, Nate. We could sit on our home screen and say, "Why are you running the same defensive formation every freaking time and expecting a different result?" It's insane. It's insanity. I mean, all you had to do was play. I mean, you could have played something as basic as nickel, and we probably would have beat Arizona State. We probably would have had that team. We should not have lost that ball game because Mississippi State should be better than that. And to sit here and watch, and although it's only week 2, week 4 really get the ball rolling if they make these same mistakes week 4. To sit here and make the same mistakes the entire first half, Nate, you have 30 minutes on the clock combined with those 2 quarters. And you're going to sit here and play 3-3-5 defense the entirety of those 30 minutes and expect you to continue to stop the run when he has been bursting you and making your defense look silly. We don't have the defense to run a 3-3-5. We were spoiled with linebackers last year. We had an SEC Defensive Player of the Year as linebacker last year. We don't have that anymore. We cannot run something, and it's the same thing with Mike Norvell at dang Florida State. I do not want to compare Mississippi State to Florida State, but it is the same premise on trying to run a defense with players you had from previous year. It does not work. Now, if we had Buki and Jet Johnson back, we might have been able to run a 3-3-5 and stop them because those are some of the most consistent tacklers I've ever seen.
try to bait him a little bit.
But when you try and run a 3-3-5 with the people that can't stop the run, you got to rethink it. And the fact that you couldn't do that, until after halftime, did you have to have your dad come and tell you, son, why are you running 3-3-5 the first quarter? Because that's when you could call your dad and ask him halftime what you're doing wrong. You should have known from the get-go after the first 150 yards what wasn't working. When you're an SEC defensive coordinator, I expect more.
You got a point. I'm not going to argue with you. You got a point. You're right.
And I can't believe I'm already ranting, Nate, because we haven't even gotten messy yet.
Nah, and you messy.
There are a dozen relevant teams, and I was going to talk about a couple. Obviously, we saw Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. Did you see that, Nate?
Yeah, that right there was so crazy.
I mean, we saw that, and we saw Oregon, which I also think are frauds. Oregon are frauds to me.
Really?
Almost lose to Boise State. Boise State had them. They choked that game. Ashton Jeanty, I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Jeanty.
He might be the best player in football. He looked electric. He looked – forget about Ollie Gordon. Forget about overtime versus Arkansas. Ashton Jeanty? Hello?
I like him.
And I love college football as you can tell. Yeah. But I don't want to talk too much of it unless you have something else to say.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm loving it.
I agree. Boise State has probably the best player in the country. But I really enjoy football. I'm passionate about football, but I'm also passionate about car insurance with Jeff Retepney.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office, stage, nursery. Shh, sorry. Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal, and it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
Now, when you call Jeff Retepney at 704-464-4544, go ahead and ask him if Arizona State's running back had good car insurance, because I can tell you for sure he did, because after 262 yards, you would think your car would break down, but that dude kept going, and it's because of car insurance with Jeff Retepney. Now, Nate, we got a lot to talk about. And Noah Broccoli says he was better than Ashton Jeanty in his prime. But I got a little messy earlier, but I hadn't really finished it off. So I'm ready to get a little bit messy with Nate Nessie.
Well, let's get messy then.
I'm ready to get messy because what I saw from our ex-Heisman quarterback, Jayden Daniels, was very, very promising, but also very, very concerning. Now, I have the title of the show, Daniels is the best 2024 rookie quarterback, and I still stand by that. But, and this is a big but, there's some things I saw in that game, and I'm going to pull it up in just a second after I pull his stats. That was concerning to me. Now, Jayden Daniels versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had 184 yards passing. He was 17 for 24. That's a 70.8 completion percentage, 7.7 yards per pass. He had 0 TDs, 0 interceptions passing. And then he had 16 carries, 88 yards rushing on the ground, 5.5 yards per rush, and then 2 rushing TDs with 0 fumbles. Now, you look at that and you're like, okay, well, those are really running back stats. And I agree with you. What he did a lot was run the ball, because that's what he was most comfortable with. Let me pull up these things. And when I was making this video, I already knew what I was going to see. And it was kind of disappointing, because a lot of his passes they weren't executed the way I would imagine them be executed. Let me do this. Let me take this banner off so we can see him. Now you see a run out the gate already. I mean, It was just actually, let me put the banner back up because I don't like us all the way at the behind the ticker. But he's just running every play. And it's like, okay, well, he's getting the first down. He's being a playmaker. But to be a playmaker, you really have to have a play vocabulary. And right here, the only word in his vocabulary is run the ball.
He's got to learn. He's got to develop.
And look at his sliding too. That's one thing. And it just concerns me because what did I say before he got drafted? That he might go ahead and put his body on the line more than a quarterback should. And which is exactly what I'm seeing this game. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And it's exactly what's happening right now. Look at this. He's probably going to run the ball. Oh, I like that little step him in the pocket. But he's going to run the ball and get the first down. He's going to end up hurting himself, Nate.
Yeah.
He's going to end up hurting himself. What happens when he does?
I mean, he's going to learn. He's going to have his coaches getting on him like, hey, you got to learn how to slide and slide properly, because that was the thing that hurt Michael Vick, outside of the fact that the game was different, a lot different then. He's going to have to learn how to slide the proper way to preserve his legs and whatnot. I mean, this is one of those situations where he's learning. Again, it's only week 1. He's learning.
It is, but I see a lot of RG3 in him. And guess what happened with RG3 in Washington?
Well, let me say this, if I can, to Robert's defense. Robert just got hurt. And, Robert just got hurt and he came back too soon. He didn't allow the process to heal. And that was the thing. Robert had world-class track speed and he could throw the ball. So I mean, let's not jump to conclusions. Again, we got 16 games left. It's a lot more season left. So let's allow him to develop.
And I don't necessarily want to say he has a super slow release, because I'm only seeing if Jayden Daniels does not have a first option, he's going to run the ball. And that shows me that he knows how to make a decision quick. But it also tells me that he's either going to not throw it or run the ball. And you saw with 16 carries, that's a running back stat, Nate. 16 carries is not a quarterback stat.
Yeah, you know what? But we got to look at this. That, again, he's still a rookie. He's got to learn the game. He's learning the quickness of the game. He's going to have to process a lot quicker. So again, we can't knock him right now. We got to give him time. We got to give these guys time to develop and whatnot, because they're coming from college where the game was a little bit slower. And we can't hold that against them.
I mean, you're right. You got 15 less seconds on the play clock to make a decision. I mean, it's you got to learn from it. And I just look, he just doesn't see anything and he starts to run. And that's my only concern, is he's going to run too much and end up hurting himself.
You got to trust the process.
And although he made 17 passes, I couldn't find them. They were mostly check downs from what I was looking at, and I wasn't going to put a check down behind us. Nobody wants to see check downs for every completion you threw. And I mean, it's like he either throws to his safety net or he runs. Obviously, these are a little bit different. And he threw some good passes in garbage time, but I'm not going to pull garbage time passes because they don't really count. And I'm still big on him. Don't think I'm just going to ditch the ship now that I've been riding it for so long. I'm still on the train. I still think he is the best 2024 rookie QB, because what I saw from the other ones were not it week 1. And yes, Nate, it's just week 1. Obviously, it's just week 1. I don't want to put that out there and we got a full season. We got 16 more games now to play. Anybody could prevail. anybody could prevail. I don't think it'll be Caleb Williams. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it'll be Caleb Williams, but I'm gonna try to give him a chance, see what he can do, because that week one was
like,
what I was watching. Like I told you earlier, was the battle of the number 1 overall draft pick for the 2025 NFL draft. That's what I was watching. It's just, and you didn't see much of Caleb Williams use his legs. You didn't see much of Caleb Williams use his arm because it was non-existent. It wasn't there. I mean, I can't really give you a proper guess or prediction of what I think will be the outcome. We have a lot more to show. These guys have a lot more to prove. And sure, it's only 24 passes he completed, 16 carries. And that might be the next version of football. We're seeing quarterbacks do a lot more now with their legs and it put a lot more responsibility on them in terms of their offense. This might be the new what the quarterbacks do from now on. It might be it. What do you think about that, Nate?
It might be the new norm. I mean, but the game is transcending. The game is growing. You know, I think everybody wants your stands in the pocket quarterback, and you're not going to always get that. There are guys that are athletic now. The level of the athlete that's in the game now is that, you know, you got DNs running 4.3s. You got linebackers running 4.3s. You know, so the evolution of that, the athlete and the athleticism is what's changed in the game. But ultimately, I still feel that in order for you to win a Super Bowl and to compete for a Super Bowl and a championship is for a quarterback to be able to stand in the pocket and dissect the defense.
And he's got a lot to learn. And I love that Cliff Kingsbury is in Washington with them, because when I saw Kyler Murray in Arizona, guess what Cliff Kingsbury did there? When we say Kyler Murray at his peak, we could thank Cliff Kingsbury for that.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing him try to develop another Kyler Murray. He won't be Kyler Murray. I hope not. Hope he'll be a little bit better and pan out a little bit better. But we're seeing a different experiment of Cliff Kingsbury. And sometimes experiments go wrong, and sometimes they go better than expected. And I love the situation Jayden Daniels is in. Although I like Caleb Williams' situation a little bit better, it doesn't change the fact on who I think will be more successful. Because, like I said earlier, it ain't rocket scientists. It ain't rocket scientists. You ain't got to be a rocket scientist. Because when I saw that Bears game, I texted in that group chat. I said, if this is what's going to happen for the rest of the year, I need a left hand of accountability and an apology video from all of you in TDT media, because the harassment I had suffered before the weeks leading up to the NFL draft, nobody should have experienced that harassment from having an opinion. Oh my gosh, it was like we were talking politics. I was like, dang, everybody's on this Caleb Williams train, but not me. Just because they say all aboard don't mean I'm taking the first ticket home.
All aboard.
Chug it, 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 chug it. Dude, I'm in the Uber following the train. And guess what? The train goes slower than the Uber. The Uber's going to get there before the train does. And that destination is Offensive Rookie of the Year, Nate. And Jayden Daniels will be that guy. Him and Malik Neighbors now have a bet. They had it before the season. They have a bet where if either of them win Offensive Rookie of the Year, they owe the other one $10,000. And I'm not gonna try to jinx it or anything, but Malik Neighbors might be paying up here in the next couple months. because I don't like 16 carries, but production is what I like to see. And regardless, that's what we got, production. Even though they lost, Baker looked dang good that game.
Yes, he
Baker
did.
dang good that game. He threw 3 touchdown passes to 3 different people. I think he had a 4th one too, but 3 different wide receivers caught a touchdown pass that game. And
he threw a second one to Mike Evans.
I mean, McMillan had one. What's his name? Yeah, isn't that his name? The Buccaneers rookie receiver. I hope I got that wrong. I don't want to tell you that I got it. That it's not wrong when it is. Should already know this. I apologize. Yeah, McMillan, Jalen McMillan. Okay, I was right about that. And yes, 10K is not a lot for those guys, but it is a bet nonetheless. If me and you were to bet 10K on something, I'd be in the hole. I'd be using probably 6 credit cards to try to get that 10K to you. And we're not here to make bets on the breakdown. We can't bet on games in the state of Mississippi. It's illegal. So I'm just going to say I'm in Illinois because I know for a fact Illinois can bet on games for this one. And I'm gonna put a little bit of orange for Jayden Daniels, and we're gonna see what happens at the end of this year and see how well these rookie quarterbacks can perform. Because I'm really interested to see what Bo Nix does in Denver.
Yeah.
So let me start the little.
Oh yeah, it's your time now. Hold on, it's my turn. It's my turn to introduce this segment.
Sports betting is now legal in Mississippi. Okay, I didn't know that.
Since when?
I didn't know that. I didn't know. It's legal now, I guess.
Since when? All right. I get to introduce the segment. All right. Now, this is probably the best. It's not probably. This is the best segment of the show. Now we get a chance to talk football and life and laugh and joke and break bread. This is the most important time. We get to feed each other's spirits. This evening, I'm not doing anything. This is Connor's time. And I'm going to let you guys know that I get on Connor about some things. Connor has a gift and a talent. He has a word that needs to be shared. And I tell him it's selfish at times for him to hold it in and not share it. You never know. Somebody needs to hear what he has to say. So, Connor, it's your time. Take the floor. Speak to us. Feed us.
I want to introduce a segment, New Week, New Chapter, because when we like to start on the right note, we like to end on the right note. And today, we're going to start the new week on a high note. And although, like he said, Nate takes the floor a lot, every once in a while I like to text him and say, Nate, I have something I want to share. I have something I need to share, something that's weighing down a little bit. And so I made sure I gave myself a little bit of time to talk, because I might be talking just a little bit longer than we normally do on this segment. So let me pull up the scripture for today. And it's Galatians 6:4. And usually a lot of the time I kind of have what I really want to say, and then I take a scripture to back it up. And that is the case for this one. And this one just stood out to me, Galatians 6:4. It's not a very good picture, I apologize. But it says each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing to someone else. Now I'm going to keep the ticker at the bottom with the verse of the week, Galatians 6:4, so that when I take this off, you're still looking at what I'm going to talk about, how I'm going to take it out from the scripture. And you're probably wondering, where am I going with this? Like, okay, well, we have this thing of comparison, and we do it a lot, like in society, even in politics, in football. We were just comparing Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams to one another. But obviously we can say, look, I was on the show last Thursday, and we were talking about Derrick Henry in our segment. And we were saying, okay, well, this may be the signing to take Baltimore to the Super Bowl. And I told them, I looked at them, I said, this is not the point of this. I looked at them and I said, look, I have concerns about this. Because what was Derrick Henry's peak, he has fell far from that. And they said, he had over 1,000 yards rushing. He had so much production. And I said, my concerns are not his production. My concerns is himself. Because y'all are sitting here comparing him to the other levels of running backs. You're sitting here saying, oh, he had 1,000 yards rushing. That's good for a running back. But is it good for Derrick Henry? And now, in this year, we can look and say, okay, well, from his peak, how does he get back to that? Does he get back to that? Will he get back to that? And I feel as Christians and followers of Jesus, we kind of have that in our lives too. We sit here and compare ourselves to other people instead of saying, how can I get back to my peak in my spirituality? And I'm glad my buddy's here. I think he's in the comments because I was talking to him about this the other day. We had a long text message, essay, paragraph exchange, and I was like, I want to talk about this Tuesday. Because right now, if me or you said, hey, we're already doing better than most. We're going to church every Sunday. We're reading scripture. We're doing things like this. We can justify whatever we do that is the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. I can say, okay, I'm doing better than most, so it's okay if I do this. If I just sin a little, it's okay if I do that. Because I'm comparing myself to other people. I'm comparing myself to a level that I already know I have obtained. And in our spiritual journey, we need to look at ourselves and say, hey, we had this peak at one point. How do I get back to it? If my peak's up here and I'm down here, I'm saying, okay, well, this is good enough. This is good enough. We already set the bar up here. So God expects us to get back up to it. He doesn't expect us to grab onto a bar, let go, and just never grab onto it again. Once he's seen what we can do through him, he expects us to do more. He doesn't expect us to quit. So the fact that we're sitting here and saying, okay, I'm doing better than them in my spirituality, that's good enough. That's good enough. That's contentment. You are content in your life right now. Once you say those words, you're content, which means everything, your goals in life, your ambitions, the success you want to bring in your future, it probably won't happen because your peak that was up here, your goals and ambitions, the stuff that you might have obtained or might have not obtained yet, you won't ever get back there because you're constantly being content with yourself. You're constantly telling yourself, hey, I'm okay with where I'm at because of other people, because of the levels other people are in, because I'm continually comparing myself to other people in their spiritual journey. When I'm not looking at myself and asking myself, where does that leave me today? Where does that leave me tomorrow? How can I get back to the bar I have already set with God behind me, with God leading the way? And so it's so crazy because, like, for me, I don't feel like I'm at my peak right now. I feel like I'm below it. And so one of the experiences I had was I had this, and this is not about her whatsoever, so if she's watching, I had a girl in college last year, and I had struggles in life. I had struggles in my spiritual journey, and I realized a lot of them were going away. So I thought to myself, okay, well, this might be something that he's showing me that I need to keep. And in reality, I was wrong. And what I took from it was clarity. Now, we don't get clarity as soon as our problems go. We don't get clarity with one of our problems right away. With time comes clarity, and with clarity comes happiness. With happiness comes, I don't know. I guess happiness would be the bar, the expectation. But when we get up there, we get clarity. It was so nice because what I thought was helping my struggles was actually teaching me that I was training myself to get rid of my problems with flesh instead of the spirit. And that's what he showed me. He said, although your problems are gone in your spiritual journey, you did not do it through me. I was not the reason those problems went away. And so I had to look at myself and I said, okay, the clarity I received from this incident, and sometimes we can get upset from problems that happen. And the clarity comes and it might make us upset again, but it's such a beautiful thing. And so once I had that clarity, I'm trying to get back to my peak. And so hopefully we can all get back to our peaks in our spiritual journey.
Yes.
And set that bar just a little higher. Is there anything you'd like to add, Nate?
No. That's it. We need to get back to our peak and set the bar higher.
So, Nate, if you want me to end it off right.
Yep.
Let me take my hat off. This is my little Reese's Senior Bowl hat. Don't look at my hair. It's awful. It's like froey. But I'm going to end it with a prayer. Father, Son. Dear Lord, I thank you for letting us come to here today to talk a little bit of football, but most importantly, talk a little bit about you. I pray, Lord, that you help us get back to our peace, get back to the bars we've set with you, Lord, so that we can experience and accomplish goals in our lives we've never seen before. Because with those goals and lives comes you, Lord, and you're the only person that can help us obtain that. So as we're sitting here searching and wondering how we can get back to our peaks, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but it will happen with you. In time comes clarity, with clarity comes happiness. And Lord, I pray you help us see that. I pray that you help us see that our struggles in our spiritual journey would be washed away with you, with the Spirit, because flesh is not an option to wash away our struggles. And it's something you help me see, Lord. And I pray you help others see it too. So as we end this spiritual segment, I want to thank you, Lord, for watching over us throughout the week. Help us through our travels, any problems we have in life. And until next week, in your Son's holy and precious name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, needed that. Needed that.
I had a little bit to say. But a spiritual journey is not, it's called a journey for a reason. It's not called a car ride. It's not called a cups at the amusement park. It's a journey for a reason. A journey is not always a straight line.
I needed that.
Thank you, Nate.
I needed that.
Appreciate that. So, as we end off this show, let me turn off this. And hopefully we all channeled our inner Ricky Williams with this.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we end off this other special episode of The Breakdown?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Nate.
Oof, thank you.
You're welcome. Hope somebody got something from that. I know Nate did. And we'll be back next week. And there's a storm coming to Starkville. Hopefully, I know my family's more south than I am, so there's a storm coming to Mississippi. I don't think it'll touch you, Nate. I think it's far from Atlanta, A-town down. But I pray for those that will be affected by this storm. And until next week, don't leave us, because we won't leave you. I'm your co-host, Connor Davis. To my right, I got it right that time. It's the man, the myth, the legend, the 5-year NFL vet, Nate Nesi. And we will see you next week.